how can I have all of these qualifications and this industry expertise and publications that aren't just education specific and still not even get an interview?
And now.
Aye. I'm the captain now.
Coming to you from the K2 studios in San Diego, California.
This sounds great. You sound amazing.
I always sound amazing.
It's the world famous
Everybody's hitting off like BFFs.
Kris and Kristine show.
Hey, what's happening? How are you doing today? Thank you so much for being here. And I am Kris.
And I'm Kristine, and welcome to episode 163 of the Kris and Kristine show.
Oh, fantastic. It feels so good to be back in the captain's chair.
In the captain's chair, is that what you call it? Like, you have to be in charge now?
Well, actually, I'm second place to the Queen Bee sitting right here in the captainette's chair over here.
Captainette? Why can't I be a captain?
Well, isn't captain for our fellows?
No, captain is gender neutral.
It is?
Yeah, captain is gender neutral, just like an actor is gender neutral.
Okay, I'll give you there. I'll give you that one.
So you don't have to be in the captain's chair. Maybe I'm on the captain's couch. That's kind of inappropriate. Sorry, everybody.
Yes, the captain's couch coming to a theater near you.
Well, we are glad to be back. Thanks so much for giving us grace over the last couple of weeks. I was traveling for a week, and then we took a week off to celebrate my birthday, and now we are back and back at it. It was like our own little micro spring break.
Yeah, unfortunately though, the rain was pounding San Diego and all of Los Angeles. There wasn't much sunshine at all to be when I think of spring break. I think of like sunshine and margaritas and sandy beaches.
Did you ever actually go on
tequila
spring break?
shots and all that fun, fantastic
Have you ever
stuff.
actually gone on a spring break trip?
Yeah, I went to the beach. Yeah, I've gotten to the beach here, obviously.
No, like spring break. Have you done spring break before?
No, but I used to watch it on television.
That's why you have these things.
I used to watch all of those like documentaries of spring break Gone Wild, all the fun stuff like that,
Documentaries, no, funumentaries.
Yeah, it might have been in the adult section of the video store, but
Chris,
anyways,
family-friendly podcast.
I'm saying is that I used to love all those spring break adventures.
Of course you did.
And I was like, I gotta do that one of these days,
So your only understanding of what spring break is from watching it through the television.
Yeah, pretty much. Actually, that's how I watch all of my thing. That's how I learned so much about all these different cultures around the world is just watching on the Travel Channel.
Well, those probably weren't on the Travel Channel. Let's be real. They're probably on MTV or something like that.
In fact, a little fun fact, I remember one year in high school, they actually had the MTV Party Spring Break House. They did this big festival they did every year. And one year, they actually had it here at Mission Beach in San Diego.
Yeah, I would believe that because spring break in San Diego could probably be a bit crazy, but it's probably even crazier like on the other side of the border.
Oh, you mean in Tijuana?
Like, what are you? You're being so weird today, Tijuana.
Hey, go make fun of me now. Come on.
Dude, you're ezy to make fun of. You're an easy target today.
Well, I lob ball it up there. You just smack it out of the park.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of making fun of, so it was so funny tonight. We were sitting at the dinner table having dessert. I made cherry pie. We were all sitting around. The boys were at the table. So the two littles plus Kris were at the table while I was scooping up some cherry pie and some ice cream. And oh my gosh, we were teasing Mason. It's, he was just being a goofball tonight. But here's what he was like really wanting to have a piece of cherry pie. And I was like, well, I'm going to have you taste it first before I cut you a slice because I want to make sure you like it so we don't end up wasting it. Because Mason is notoriously our super picky eater.
Yeah,
very picky eater. And we've been trying to work on that. But Kris, I gave him a scoop, like a little dollop of the cherry pie filling and like some little flakes of the pie crust on a spoon. And I just said like, here, take a bite of it. And he put it in his mouth and he like gave this like scrunched up old man, like grumpy old man face. Like he was absolutely disgusted with cherry pie. And he was like, ah, ugh, this does not taste good.
He didn't eat any of it at all?
No. I
He
just
didn't like
gave
it
him
at all?
No, and here's the funny part. I was like, Mason, but you said you wanted to try it. Like, I don't understand. And he's like, well, I don't like cherries. And I was like, but it's cherry pie, Mason. And he's like, well, I thought it was going to taste like something different than cherries. And then Jacob and I were there and we started busting up laughing. And poor Mason, he like started to like tear up a little bit. But it was so funny in that moment because it's like literally cherry pie. And I went to give it to him. And then he was like, but I thought it was going to taste like something different. Like, you know how like pie sometimes tastes like different things. And I was like, apple pie tastes like apples, Mason. Chocolate pie tastes like chocolate. And he's like, well, I thought it would like taste different. So anyways, he got ice cream and whipped cream tonight. But that was so funny.
I don't know what he thought it tastes like.
I don't
Gummy
know
bears
either.
and tricks, maybe. I have no idea.
I don't know. Sour Patch Kids and Sunshine and Rainbows. I don't know. But you and him are both easy targets. I don't make fun of Mason typically, but
Do I?
yes, you do.
Okay.
I don't.
Poor little feller.
Well, you and Jacob definitely pick on him. I don't, but it was one of those moments, and then he started laughing too, and it was pretty funny.
Yeah, you got to get him a flip around because when kids he gets very emotional, very upset. Like we all do.
Like I do.
Like you do. Everybody really gets really upset sometimes sometime one another.
Not really. You don't.
Yeah, I do.
You get mad,
on the
but not
inside.
at like when you get teased. You just make fun of yourself even more.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. That's fine.
But yeah, you got to be able to like flip it around because I was afraid he was going to start crying. And I was like, oh, we got to get him to laugh too because it was a funny moment. It's like cherry pie. I don't know. You had to be there.
I think kids do actually get over things fairly quickly when it comes to stuff like that. Fun little, jokes and fun stuff and,
Yeah, I think they do. At least our kids do for sure. But yeah, we've just been spending time with the kiddos and they're all getting ready for spring break. I was up with Ezekiel last weekend and we had a really great time spending quality time together for my birthday.
Yeah, Kristine had a birthday recently.
Woo, woo.
How old are you now? 27?
27.
27.
Yep.
How does it feel to be almost knocking on the door of 30?
Yeah, 27 with an 18-year-old. The math doesn't make sense.
Well, in some countries.
You know,
maybe.
I'm just aging backwards.
Isn't some countries I heard years ago that you get married when you're 10 years old? Is that true? Like some countries? Like maybe
I mean, there's
Africa or something, maybe?
I don't.
Tribe?
I'm not going to go there because I don't know, and I'm not going to say things that would come across as a stereotype because I'm not going to, and so we'll just kind of like. We're
the
gonna
villagers, they get married when they're real young.
Kris, we're gonna skip over that. We're not gonna stereotype. We're just gonna.
I'm not just saying,
No,
I'm saying different strokes, different folks.
Again, we're not gonna talk about that. You keep trying. We're not gonna talk about 10-year-old brides. It's just sad.
It is very sad,
So we're just gonna skip on over to the next topic.
Or even 27-year-old brides who got married got 18-year-old kids. That's sad too.
I mean, like I said, I'm aging backwards, my gray hair.
Hey, let me know when you hit 30 because I want to know what it's like when I hit 30.
Mentally or physically?
Well, I'm not quite there mentally, but physically.
I would agree with that.
As I get older, I realize that my bones feel like they're brittle, like brittle pieces of glass now. I don't know what it is.
Oh, my
Everything
word.
hurts when you get older. It's like you get older and you just go outside and play a little bit of basketball, and next thing you know, your shoulder hurts.
Oh,
your
you're
arm
telling
hurts.
us from personal experience today, Kris, aren't you?
Or you're going I'm going to go do some batting cage hitting the ball, and I'm going to swing the bat and hit the balls, and I'm going to check this out. This is going deep.
Okay, you're speaking in code, so tell everybody what you did today.
Well, because little Mason Jar, our youngest, is in baseball for Little League, I was thinking, you know what? In the backyard, the kids like to play baseball, but our backyard isn't very big. And when Kristine has
Our backyard is very big.
Okay, it's not.
We live on a half an acre.
Okay, it's not like we have a big field of space. We have a hill, we have a little grass area, and we got the Kristine Smith Designs workshop and the Kristine Smith Designs flower cooler. But the workshop has glass windows facing the area where we play ball. And the kids
glass window.
Yeah, so the kids like to hit the ball that direction. I'm thinking, I might hit the house or I might hit the design studio and break the window playing ball, playing baseball in the backyard. And I thought, you know what? Mason really needs to work on his hitting form for his baseball. And I was like, where can I take him to go do some hitting or practice batting because he does the fielding fairly good. You know, he can play catch, he can catch the ball and catch, fly balls and things like that. When it comes up to bat, he's not as experienced as some of the other kids that are on this team. Because some of the other kids on the team are like hitting like out to the outfield and stuff. They're good, doing pretty good hitting.
Mm-hmm.
His hitting is like to the pitcher. He gets on the ground to the pitcher, and so I was like, I need to work on his hitting. I had this idea. What if we somehow created like this like net thing that he can just hit the ball into full swing? It doesn't have to hit nothing, doesn't hit the house, doesn't have to hit the shed or go over the hill or anything. Doesn't lose any balls because he already has a batting tee. And I'm like, well, I went on Amazon like literally yesterday, ordered this baseball netting. It was like a 10 by 10 net under the sporting section or something. And it got delivered today. Like that was pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And so today I set it up between the posts of the patio, what do you call it? The awning?
The patio. Yeah. We have this
the gazebo
structure.
kind of thing.
No, we have a structure that's built that spans the whole length of the back of our house, and it goes out like 10 feet from the house. But then it's long. It's pretty long. It's like a good 35 feet long at least.
So I tied that thing with zip ties to the kind of the rafters of the patio thing. And it's kind of hanging down, tied to the bottom. So we were able to use it as a backstop for the balls. We hit the balls right into it.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to be able to see Mason like set up his tee and practice off of the tee, like full swing without having to worry about like the house or the studio getting damaged. And he was having fun, but what we started off this conversation with was your old creaky bones. So why don't you tell our listeners what ended up happening once you got the net up and running?
Of course, I got to start swinging into it too, And
okay.
I'm going to show you how it's done, Mason.
No, it wasn't just that. It was your ex-wife came over to drop off Jacob or to pick up Jacob, and you go outside. Mason was batting, and you're like, oh, hey, you want to see me? And I was like, what the heck is happening right now? It's like you're trying to do show and tell and trying to impress this other woman. It was like a totally weird situation where here I am like cooking and baking in the kitchen and I'm busy. But this other individual comes over and you're like, oh, hey, you want to watch me bat? And I'm
I'll
like,
show you how it's done. What's this?
no,
and I get
it's
up
like,
there and-
what the heck? Like, why are you trying to impress her? I don't get it.
I'm not trying to impress her. I'm trying to impress you.
No,
She's
you
happy to be
weren't.
here.
No, you weren't.
Yes,
Because
I
you
was.
would not do
Yes, I
it unless
was.
she was watching you. It was so awkward.
So I did with the
She's
first.
like she's your girlfriend or something.
What are you jealous of my ex-wife?
Well, you were kind of acting odd today, Kris. You literally go, oh, hey, you want to watch me? And then you were like, oh, are you watching? And you went out there and you were like batting. It was so bizarre. I don't understand.
Well, I just had to show off my hitting skill. That's all. Like this one's out of the park.
And now, and you kept going. And afterwards, I was like, honey, you're going to need to stop. You're using muscles you don't normally use. You're going to be sore. And then you come in and then you were like, I'm going to go out and play some basketball
That's
now.
right. I sure did.
So you went out and you were playing basketball.
That's right. Yeah.
And then you come in and then 30 minutes ago, what did you say to me?
My right shoulder hurts, but it doesn't hurt from basketball.
You go, my right shoulder hurts. I don't know what I did, man. And I was like, you were batting and I was telling you to lay off and you didn't.
Well, and then I think I slept wrong a lot, really, is what it is.
No, it is from batting practice. It is not from sleeping wrong, you goofball.
It does hurt from time to time. Right here. I think
It is your batting arm.
Okay.
Own it.
I do. I want to sell it. No, I do. Yes,
At
I own
least
this.
it's like from something where you're not just like, oh, I just slept wrong. That's like old man talk. You were
It
like,
is.
oh, well, I was at the batting cages and playing some basketball and,
Showing these whippersnappers how it's done.
yeah, it's just like, it's because I'm so like athletic.
I was kind of thinking today as I'm shooting hoops in the front yard in the court, and I'm thinking, we have a lot of athletic stuff here at this house.
It's to keep our kids outside.
Yeah, we have the basketball court in the front yard. We have now the batting cages, quote unquote,
In the backyard.
In the backyard.
We have the hot tub, which the kids use as like their sauna.
And then they have football.
We have the bike track down the hill.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, just down outside of our cul-de-sac. We have this, it's like right where our street opens up into is this dirt lot. It's surrounded by trees, but the neighborhood kids and their dads have made it into like a dirt bike track where they take their dirt bikes on these different like dirt jumps, but our kids love to take their bikes down there and try and like jump off of them and things like that. And it's not like dangerous or anything. They love it.
Right. Well, the kids that usually go to use that area, motorcycles and motorbikes and things like that, but you can use like BMX style bikes and things like that. Have fun doing that. It's always great to have our kids like get off devices and do more of the outdoor stuff, the football stuff, the baseball stuff, the playing basketball in the front yard. Actually enjoy, hearing the basketball being dribbled in the front yard and him shooting hoops and stuff like that. And now I'll probably enjoy Mason hitting the bat and not worry about him. Oh, are you going to hit towards the house? Is that going to go over the fence? Is that going to go, So I used to buy him a lot of those wiffle balls because the wiffle balls are basically plastic balls that are hollow. They look like Swiss cheese. There's a bunch of holes in it.
Yeah.
So when it hits the air, it kind of slows down and they're plastic. They don't really hit the house very hard. It's funny is that he's been using his real baseball bat with those things. And guess what happens?
What?
They break in half.
Oh, yeah. I could see that happening.
They have so many dents and they're all broken, for those wiffle balls. And I was letting them play with those because if he hits them with a fence, whatever, or if they hit a house, doesn't break the house or break the window usually. But now that he has real baseballs. Oh, and also speaking of baseballs, because I want to make sure I help Mason play pretty good baseballs, I bought myself my very own baseball glove.
Oh,
because
tell us more.
I know. I said, I'm playing catch with Mason in the backyard. I'm saying, gosh, sign me up, coach. I can do this.
Yeah.
I can play. I can catch. Yeah, look at this. I haven't caught a baseball with a baseball glove since I was probably his age. I tell you not.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, do you think that you're going to use that net for him to actually practice his throwing too?
You could. I mean, theoretically, you can hit or throw anything into it. It would stop it. So,
like, should he have a target though, so that he's like trying to be more precise? Because I think that's the thing with kids that are like younger is trying to get control over their body and like trying to focus on the hand-eye coordination so that it like gets to the place where they intended for it.
I did see a backstop with pitcher. It's a pitcher backstop netting system they had at the sporting goods store where I bought my glove at. And what it did, it had a target right out on the thing and had like a fake like catcher with a fake glove. But the glove
that would be cool.
Had a target. And you're supposed to throw in the target for pitching and things like that. But
yeah, I wasn't thinking so much for pitching, but he's like out in center field. And so like if he was to catch the ball, to be able to throw it that far, like how are you working with him on that?
That's why I want to do the playing catch with him. And we've been playing catch, from one side of the yard, the other side of the yard. And I throw the ball a little too hard to him than he's usually used to with the other kids throwing the ball to him. But it seemed like a normal pace to me, but he was catching him pretty good for the most part. So
I think that our front yard is a little bit longer. If you were to go along the white fence in the front grassy part, maybe you could do some like playing catch out there too. But I mean, the bottom line is I love that you're getting outside with the kids and you're getting out from behind your devices because let's be honest, it's like father like sons.
No, I don't consume content. I create it, baby.
No, you consume a mass amount of content.
Maybe YouTube in the bathroom. But,
Well, all the time. But I do love seeing you get out from behind the screens and you and the kids doing things and things like that. But what else has been new with you in terms of work, career, all of those kinds of things?
Work's been going strong. Work in the rain is horrible, honestly. Yeah. And I always kind of wish I had a nice, cushy, warm, and fuzzy office job that I could just be inside. And the hardest part of your day is walking with your umbrella to your car. Or in some people's case, walking to their parking garage, which is not in the rain at all, and then driving the dreaded drive home to your house. That sounds wonderful if you ask me, but no, I have to work rain or shine, 24/7, 365, and all kinds of weather conditions.
Yeah.
And this rain in San Diego, it's actually I did hear that we've had more rain in Southern California than Seattle has had this year.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I was thinking about you last week while you were at work and especially with all of the rain. And I was thinking like, how it would be just the ideal time to be able to just say to you, like, Kris, quit your job. But we're not at that point.
Whoa, what'd you say? I'm listening now. What?
No, I said we're not at that point yet. But, with all of the rain and everything, it did make me think about like your career. And if ever you did want to make a career move, like what would we need to do to help you prepare for that? And coming up on this week's episode, we have a fantastic guest who's going to be talking with us about how to prepare for that next step in your career. Make sure that you're putting your best foot forward. And we're going to be back with her right after this.
Enjoy listening to podcasts and ever wonder, can I make a podcast? But it seems so complicated, and good audio production can take time. What if there was a way to create an amazing podcast easily? Well, now there is. Introducing Podcasting Made Easy from Podtastic Audio. My production team will handle your entire audio production, allowing you to be the star of your show. This is Podcasting Made Easy. How easy? Well, so easy, you don't even have to press record. Now that's easy. Your listeners are waiting. Let's deliver. Sign up for a free strategy call today at podtasticaudio.com/easy.
And welcome back, everybody. Today we have another fantastic VIP guest. She is a career coach and the owner of CareerTuners.com. Welcome to the show, Fatemah Mirza.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that warm intro.
Well, we're so excited to have you on the show. Where in the world are you joining us from today?
Today I am in Irvine, California. It's like 50 miles inland of LA.
Irvine, that's up the road from us.
Right. We're based in San Diego, so we're just a stone's throw away.
That's awesome. Yeah, just the 15 south, and I'll be with you guys.
Well, we appreciate you being here on the show today. Kris and I have been really looking forward to this interview because you are a career coach, and we're going to get into that in just a little bit. But first of all, what is a little bit of your background?
Sure. So I started Career Tuners after helping a few friends of mine with their applications and realizing that there was I know my friends. They're so brilliant. I went to school with a few of them, so I knew they were very, very capable. I knew all about their background. But when I saw their application materials, I was like, this looks like literally every other application I've ever seen. And I'm not really seeing your accomplishments shine through because, there's so much conflicting advice online about how we need to represent ourselves, but there's nobody that can look at you, like no website can really look at you and say, hey, this exact step-by-step framework is going to work for your unique story. Initially I was working with younger professionals. A lot of the professionals I were working with were like pre-med that decided, you know what, I don't want to become a doctor. But when you look at their resume, it's all like pre-med. And they're like, well, I don't know why I'm not getting any consulting jobs. And I'm like, well, this is why, because all you're focusing on is your pre-med stuff. So it's simple things like that where people, the big question I always get people asking, like, wow, I could do that. Like I could write it that way. I didn't even know that I could just do that. And, helping people kind of think outside the box in terms of their experience while still making sure that their story looks very traditional and is kind of the narrative that people are used to seeing so that it doesn't feel like jarring and, like marketing and kind of slimy. That's me because it's just about giving people that confidence to tell their story in a way that resonates more with whoever they're telling it to, whether it's the interviewer, their boss, if they're positioning themselves for a promotion, even their team, if they're trying to make their projects go more smoothly. And that's what I do. I just help people tell their stories in a way that really resonates with their audiences at the end of the day.
That makes a lot of sense. So let's float back just a little bit before you started Career Tuners. What was your professional journey before you became a business owner?
Sure. So I was actually in environmental engineering, which I realized is not really a career path that I wanted to pursue because, growing up in LA, it's the irrigation and environmental systems here are really established. Whereas I wanted to initially study environmental engineering because I was so passionate about irrigation, right?
Oh,
Like
wow.
I'm from India originally, and there's so many problems with irrigation, and it impacts farmers
Oh,
so
really?
badly.
Like, can you give me an
Yeah.
example
So
of what the irrigation system is like in India compared to America here?
yeah, like let me actually give you an example from Pakistan, because this is something probably you guys might have heard on the news towards the second half of 2022. The entire like agricultural system in the southern part of Pakistan was like washed away, quite literally,
Oh,
because the
wow.
rains were so heavy. People lost their cash crops, people lost all their cotton, people lost all their food crops, they lost all their wheat, and it was just devastating. The way, especially the coastal areas are being hit by climate change. It's just so bad for these farmers, because they're either going through severe droughts or severe flooding, and this lack of predictability, it can be very challenging. But if I talk very specifically about India and like the neighborhood I grew up in, there was like this little river that ran basically along the drive of me going to school as a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that river during the drought months, there would be little shanties that people would put together using like tin roofs and sticks, and they would basically live there. And all of their bathroom stuff, their laundry, their cooking water, it's all coming from this river, which is getting filthier and filthier as the drought or as the hot, dry months progress. And that's because it's obviously getting more concentrated, and it's collecting more and more waste. And in the flooding season, it's washing their homes away,
Oh, wow.
right? So that's what I used to see on the way to school, and I was like, this is there's solutions to this. I know there's solutions to this. Like when it came to America, I saw everything is so regulated, and there are proper irrigation systems that direct the flow of of flooding, and that give people what's the word I'm looking for? Predictable,
Mm-hmm.
predictable flows of water when there's a drought. So we living in Southern California, we're very familiar with this, and we really take it for granted. But I think the poor farmers of the world, this is their everyday. Like I was listening to a podcast, The Daily, where they talked about the Pakistan floods, and there was this woman that they talked about where she was wading through this flood water to get to her cotton trees, and like plucking out the cotton balls and digging out just the clean white strands from each ball, like this very tedious and monotonous
Wow.
task. Because she's like, this is all I have in the world. This is my money.
Wow.
So
Well, that seems
it's
like it seems like such a niche area, and especially living in Southern California. So I'm imagining you finished your college education and you had this idea of going into environmental engineering. And then what was your point where you just realized like, this isn't what I want to do anymore?
I think the point was in environmental engineering 101 at UCLA. It was the program was so focused on sewage systems, and there was a formula for calculating the rate at which poo-poo sinks in sewage water. And
Oh yeah, what is that rate?
That's when you go in.
And what
It's a
animal
very complex.
what animal floats? It doesn't float that much. It sinks faster.
Kris.
Yeah, there's all these processing things you have to do. And I was like, okay, I don't know about this. And then later we had a field trip, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can smell this every day. And the teacher was like, Fatemah, if you leave, I am giving you a B. And I was like, girl, I don't care. I'm leaving. Like, give me that B. Like, I'm out of here. And I would just, I kept doing it for a while, and I kept trying to stick with it. But when I always really loved people, and like listening to their stories and helping them on, decide how they want to brand themselves, and how, what career paths might be good for them. I love doing that research and really figuring out who that person is, what their passions are, how can we make it make sense in this very broken and cookie cutter type HR system that we're in. That is the modern reality. So I just love that. And I was like, you know what? This is like, I might not be able to solve the irrigation problems of India, but I work with very talented professionals who are doing amazing things in their respective fields, whether it's healthcare or even marketing, or even sales. The passion with which they approach their work, and how the clients that find me are usually very interested in mission-driven organizations that have a very specific purpose. They feel good about going to work because they know that even if they are in a field that isn't really thought of as being like, changing the world for the good, they are working for companies that are, and using that passion, they do move the needle. And I'm not going to be cleaning up the water of India anytime soon. I'm not going to be solving the water crisis there anytime soon. But I strongly feel that working with these kinds of people, we are going to make the world a better place, one resume at a time.
Fatemah, I got a question about the water. Now, what's the story with desalination? Can we use it? Is it? I heard it's like super expensive. I heard it's cheaper.
What is it called?
Desalination.
Desalination.
That's what I said. So I heard it's cheaper to ship Fiji water from water bottles from Fiji to the States than it is to open a desalination plant.
Well, desalination basically entails evaporating water and then collecting the vapor and condensing it so that it's just pure water, right? What that takes is a lot of fuel. So it's sustainable in countries like the United Arab Emirates and the Gulf states, because they have a huge supply of petroleum and they can burn that in order to get to their water, because that's I don't know. Is gasoline cheaper than water? And I don't know. Maybe it might be. But that's.
It's so funny you asked that. I have a friend that lives in Kuwait, and they were just talking to me about how the price of gasoline is so expensive right now that it's like 50 cents a gallon. And I was like, "What? That's not expensive."
But in their currency, it's probably higher.
No. They were just saying that it's actually like. That's
I just heard a rumor that if you live on the coast, why not just turn all the ocean water into drinking water and you're good to go? Problem solved, California. There you go. But I heard it's cheaper to just ship out Fiji bottles to everybody than it is to do that.
You digress. You're getting us off track, Mr. Smith over here. So, okay. So when we're talking about how you've transitioned into this other area of your profession. So how long ago did you make that move?
This was in 2010. 2010 was when I helped my first real client for actual money. And I started hiring career coaches and certified resume writers to support me because my business quickly grew. I was helping a lot of people. I had a page way back in the day in 2010 on Facebook where I was just writing my thoughts about how people should be telling their story. And the posts that I was writing, they quickly went viral. I don't have that page anymore, which is a huge loss. I don't know what happened to it, but it's somewhere out there. And, that was so addicting. The instant gratification of knowing that there are people who are seeing what I'm putting out there and they're like, wow, okay, I'm going to do this and it's going to be helpful. So that was...
Fatemah, was that right after the economic downturn of 2008, 2009, right? So 2010, you were saying. So that's probably when that big surge of resumes that hit the market, correct?
Yeah, this was in October of 2010. I feel like things were slowly starting to become stable and things were now like gradually becoming optimistic. So I didn't start my business at the peak of the recession, but we did survive through 2020.
Yeah, well, 2020 is a very interesting year for employment and employers, really, because everybody got flipped on its head with the work from home. Zoom became like a trademark name. Everyone said like Xerox, So, but in 2010, when we first started doing it, I think Facebook was fairly new, I believe, back then. I think it only been out for a few years. So you're kind of hitting the ground running from the beginning, right?
Yeah. It was a very different Facebook. Is what I remember. I stopped using Facebook after a while and I kind of moved things over to LinkedIn. So now when I go onto Facebook, I'm like, what? What is all this?
So when you got your start, what were people using like primary platforms for developing their resumes? Were they using Microsoft Word? Because I know technology's evolved so much, or were people using typewriters? I can't even fathom.
I did mine on a typewriter.
In 2010 though?
Or maybe I did on mine crayon. I don't know.
In Comic Sans font. Yeah. No, but it's interesting that you asked that. Like, I feel that while we have evolved a lot from a technological perspective, a lot of the HR systems that these companies are using have not. So having a resume that's like universally legible, still in a plain black and white Microsoft document, it is the way to go. It does help the most people be able to access what you're sharing. I know there's a lot of trends out there to like, have TikTok resumes and to have like websites that are basically like video games around your resume and around your career history. And I think these are very creative ways to showcase your expertise if, let's say, for example, video content generation or video game development were your specific skill sets. However, the traditional resume is what most people still use to at least get that first impression. And then they'll click around to see if you have anything interesting, like a video portfolio or a web portfolio or, anything interesting that they can look at to assess your candidacy further.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's this famous section of the movie, I'm sure you're familiar with it, from Legally Blonde, where Elle Woods hands her resume to her professor, and it's pink and scented. Do you think that adding flair like that, or Kris and I actually on our first podcast episode talked about people that were using Bitmojis as like their profile photo on their resume. Do you think that adding flair like that detracts or adds to people's perceptions of you as a professional?
I think it really depends on how, like, the medium of how the resume is being read. Like, if you're going to an in-person networking event and you're handing people a scented resume, I think that's a different medium than if you are handing someone your resume who happens to be in HR. And what's probably going to happen is that HR person is going to take that stack of resumes that they got at a networking event, go home, scan them, and that scanned image is going to get uploaded to their applicant tracking system, and an image to text processor is going to parse that and read through it. And if you have like a really beautiful resume with lots of colors and columns and graphics, there's a high chance that that process is going to jumble things up versus if you have something really boring and frankly like traditional, and I know that's not a very attractive and I know that's not a very attractive thing to say, but it's the reality. It's the more traditional you look, the fewer red flags you kind of raise. And
red flags,
these process it does, because I mean there is a lot of personality that we can show in our design, but I like to say put your personality in the content. Like, use words that really describe what you do. If it makes you feel good, add a 1-line bio at the end of your resume that shows, for example, your hobbies. And this is actually a piece of advice that I gave a client recently who, he was like, look, I know I'm 65, but I feel 45 and I want a job that reflects that. But I feel like people are looking at my resume and being like, oh, this guy is not going to have the energy. But I'm like very modern. Like I know all of the tech and I can do really good. So what we did is we shrunk his resume down to a length that didn't age him. And then we added a 1-line bio at the end that said he was a triathlete. Because I mean, what 65-year-old is a triathlete? Right. That screamed youth and energy.
But
so there are still ways that you can.
How would someone even know your age on a resume?
They can assess your age from, if you put like your date of graduation, they can add, what is it, subtract 22 and then subtract the year.
Okay, say graduated high school in 1945. but so Fatemah, major question, because I never knew the answer to this, and hopefully you can help me out here. What's the difference between a resume and a cover letter?
Cover letter traditionally would like cover your resume. So you'd like mail your resume out to companies and then they would see, oh, this is a cover letter. Let me open this up. And there would be the resume.
But so the resume, ones I've seen have been the same thing. They've been the cover letter and the resume look identical to each other. So like, oh, this is a cover letter. And this one's a resume, but they look the same.
Whose are you looking at,
I'm telling you, that's all I've ever known.
Okay. No judgment. A little bit of judgment.
Okay, Kris, I'll text you later and work on your cover letter for you because that's
my cover letter is my smile.
No, but I get that. So for individuals Kris and I have been talking about this, and he's definitely been building his business and been thinking of a transition in his career in the, not so distant future. But, for an individual like Kris that is maybe putting together a professional resume for the first time in many years, maybe since pre-2010, how would you advise him to get started?
The first thing is to understand like who's going to be looking at your resume and what their business needs are. So ideally, if you have like a job description or a job listing that you're applying against, you can look at that and you can build your resume around that. What are they looking for? What's on there that, like when you're reading between the lines, what can you assess about their culture? Like, do they want somebody who's really good at doing a lot of things, or do they want someone who's very, very specialized on just like one thing? And having, assessing that can help you build your resume so that you're not including a bunch of stuff on your resume that is not immediately relevant to their hiring needs. Because if you're doing that, there's a risk that all of the stuff that isn't relevant to what they're looking for is diluting the positive impact that they would otherwise get from whatever else is relevant.
So you're saying, Fatemah, you should have like a resume for each type of job you're applying for, like a resume for this type of job or a resume for that type of job?
Exactly. Exactly.
So multiple
and the more
resumes.
types of jobs you're applying to, like the more chaotic it's going to get. Yes, but I don't advise that because like Kris, like if you're going to go to like a dinner party and then you're going to be like, hey, I'm interested in marketing and also sales and also teaching, and like they're not your friends and family aren't going to know what to help you with, right? And we underestimate the power of our network. Like if you can go in and singularly say, hey, I help podcasts go viral, that's smaller, and the segment of people who can hire you is smaller, but there's a very specific message that the people at that dinner party are going to be able to take away. So I highly recommend having a very focused approach to a job search. I mean, like you can have two different goals. I feel like that's okay. Or you can have a broader goal where you're like, I'm generally interested in digital marketing and like a variety of different industries. I feel like that's fine because you can still have a very solid message around that. But if your message is blurry and muddled, people aren't going to be able to help you.
So I was told many years ago when you were creating a resume, this is probably when I was probably in the earlier days of my career, I would say. So it didn't have a lot to put on the resume. I had enough, but I heard that it always has to be one page. Now, what are your thoughts on that?
Mm-hmm. I don't think that advice is relevant anymore for the modern world if you have more than 5 years of experience, because these resumes are being parsed by these applicant tracking systems that are looking for keywords. And if you have like 30 years of experience and you're jamming it all into one page, all it's going to get from that is basically your job titles, especially if you've moved around a lot. So giving yourself the wiggle room to go to 2 pages allows you to talk a little bit more about what you have to offer. But with that being said, that first page has to be really interesting so that they go on to read the second page. You want the resume to be very attractive to not just the person who's reading the resume, but also the applicant tracking system. Like you want it to be optimized for that process as well.
Oh, really? Like Google, what do you call it?
Is it like AI?
Yeah, exactly. Some applicant tracking systems do have a bit of AI and natural language processing built in, but most of them kind of work like Google, exactly like a search engine where they're taking this page and they're summarizing it into a little blurb, and based on the search query, they're going to rank you. So if someone's looking for, say, like podcast marketing, and your resume has that in your job title, it's likely to come up compared to if someone just has that like buried into one of their volunteer experience sections or something. So it does know where to look at their resume, and then it will rank you based on that and based on how many relevances it can pull between the search query and what you have on there.
So Fatemah, I have an important question. So let's just say I created my resume. I printed it out on not scented paper, the regular paper, and it looks fantastic, simple black and white and all. It looks great, right? And you worked on it. And I take it to the company I want to drop it off at. I want to work here. I drop it off. Where does it go, and what do they do when they see it?
Most companies actually don't take physical resumes, but if you do happen to find an HR person that's going to take a physical resume, they are probably going to scan it and upload it into their system just so that they can make sorting through all of those resumes easier, because there's a lot of pressure on these guys to fill a lot of roles. So they're trying to save their own time, and they're going to use technology to save whatever time they can. They want to spend the maximum amount of time they have on getting the most enticing candidates into their pipeline, kind of being a salesperson to sell their company and their employer brand to different people, and interviewing it and making sure that it's the right fit. Going through resumes and all of that, they want to go through as few as possible. They only want to look at the star candidates. And I saw a few people on LinkedIn repeat this experiment over and over, where they would just put a job and kind of go through, okay, how many resumes am I going to get? And they're going to actually look at all the resumes and post the results. Like they'll put a job opening for like an email marketing specialist and they'll get like 100 applications, but like 70% of those aren't even for email marketing specialists. So a lot of people just aren't following instructions, or they're just applying, like they're spamming jobs basically. And these technologies are critical for an HR person to be able to do their job well.
So the HR person scans all the resumes. In fact, I think they don't even want, you said they don't even want paper resumes anymore. I think if you were to go to apply for a job, they always tell you, just go apply it online, a website is whatever it is, and upload your resume there. So the purpose of actually having a printed copy, fancy paper resume is kind of over then, right?
If you're going to an in-person interview, I highly recommend bringing a nice copy of your resume, because there might be a couple people on that panel who aren't super duper familiar with your candidacy. There might be that one person that has gone through your resume in a lot of detail. However, for the people that haven't, bringing a couple copies of your resume will allow them to follow along as you're sharing your story in your interview.
Oh, okay.
So my question then is, Fatemah, is it beneficial to try and get an inside track, like to be friends with somebody in the organization or have somebody that can speak for you, so that if your resume doesn't quite stand out, that you still get your foot in the door? Because it just seems like if there's all of these electronic systems sorting and ranking people, that nobody's going to really know what an amazing person you are. Like it just feels very, what's the word? Disheartening, discouraging before you even get started for people that are trying to get out there.
It is very disheartening, and it definitely does help to have an in, but an in cannot make up for your story not being articulated properly. Like you might be the most well-connected person ever, but if you just don't have the capability to tell your own story or to nail it in an interview and to defend the fact that you have what it takes to do the job, that connection isn't going to help you. So the first step to, having a successful job search is to take stock of what it is you have to offer and see what companies are hiring that have your unique skill set. And I guarantee you, even if you're in the middle of a recession when you're listening to this episode, even if it feels like no one in your industry is hiring, taking a detailed stock of what you can offer and seeing who is hiring for those positions or for that skill set is going to help you come out on top. And then connecting, strategically is definitely going to help as well. In fact, there's a single digit percentage of jobs that are hired based on, online applications. A lot of jobs are filled internally when they're moving one person from one team to another, or through referral, or based on like a recruiter. It's very unusual for people to actually get hired through an online. I mean, I'm not saying it's unusual, like it doesn't happen, but the success is definitely higher if success rate is higher if you have an in. So if you're trying to transition into a brand new industry and you don't know, like, what do I even talk about? How do I build up my resume? The first thing to do is take a look at the job description and see, you know what, that sounds like I haven't done it if I really focused on, the whole like definition of the job description. But if I take it line by line, I have done this in one capacity or another. I have done this in another capacity or another. And then you just write your resume kind of according to those transferable skills, and in the interview only focus on that. Like if you go into the interview and you're talking about all this experience that doesn't really relate to the job, they're going to pigeonhole you and they're going to say, wow, Kristine she's great, but she doesn't have the experience we want. She has a whole bunch of other experience. And we're worried that she's going to get distracted and she's going to move on to a job that can fully utilize her, right? So you have to get that messaging tight. You have to filter out everything that isn't relevant.
Well, speak to your audience, and then, right? Or speak to your interviewer. Really.
Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
That's one of the things that I was going to ask about is, for me personally, so I've worked in education for 19 years. earned my doctorate, completed it back in 2021. And it's not just in education. Yes, it's a doctorate of education, but it's in organizational change and leadership. And so I've been just pondering like, well, do I want to jump into industry? Do I want to do something in a more strategic type of CFO, CEO? Because I have other qualifications that would set me apart. But as I've put my resume out there and I felt like it was pretty good and pretty solid, I get these notifications back from these pretty large entities like, the thank you so much, but you're not the right fit. And it's like, I'm not applying for things that I'm not qualified for. It's just, it kind of boggles my mind. Like, how can I have all of these qualifications and this industry expertise and publications that aren't just education specific and still not even get an interview?
Yeah, I would have to look at your resume to see potentially where that mismatch is happening. If maybe you're looking overqualified and expensive, because that is another fear that people have that, wow, she's going to ask for a lot of money, or she's going to need a large budget to operate. She's going to need a huge team. And, these things make people feel really intimidated, even if that is what they need. They need that expensive person who's actually going to bring high ROI. That is a fear that a lot of people have.
No way.
So that could be, yeah, for sure. Like, I have a small business. If someone came to me and they were like, I'll be your CEO and I'll get you to like $1 billion per year in revenue, but I need $1 million per year in salary, I'm gonna be like, I just don't have the cash, bro. Like, I don't know, that sounds great, but I just don't have the cash. You know what I mean? Like, there's very real limitations to a lot of these businesses. That could be one thing. The other thing could be that with executive searches, there's a much lower chance of having a successful job search if you're just applying through websites, like big websites. Instead, if you are connected to a few recruiters in your space, which, there are recruiters that specialize in different industries. So if you find the recruiters that just specialize in, let's say, CFO hires, if that's a job that you're interested in, then you have a much higher rate of success. And these recruiters have websites where you can upload your resume, and they'll probably get on a conversation with you, ask you about your needs. Where are you going to relocate to? Or were you open to relocating to? Are you okay with traveling? What salary requirements you have? And I have found that these recruiters are the kinds of people that you can have the most honest conversations with. For example, I was interviewing recently with a recruiter and I was like, do you think it's unreasonable for me to ask for like $160,000 a year? And he was saying, no, I don't think it's unreasonable or unheard of. In fact, I just placed a candidate that I had to give her $230,000 per year. And the thing that separates her from you is that she has a master's in this field and she has this many years of experience, blah, blah, blah. So it can help you make an educated decision on, okay, this is the career path I need to follow if I need to get to this salary level or to a job that, meets my work-life balance goals or whatever your priority is. But having a recruiter kind of advocate for you when you're a C-level executive is very critical. It's going to be difficult to get a really good job that is, where you have the intellectual and creative freedom to do what you want. If you're just sticking to, let's say, like LinkedIn and Indeed.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And so let's fast forward and let's envision that Kris or I have landed that interview. We got our foot in the door.
They liked our resume and they said, hey, come on in, right?
Yeah. So we got through that first big hurdle. And now we're getting to sit down in front of the interview panel or the interviewers. I've always wondered when they ask you the question about the strengths and weaknesses, like, or what's one thing that you don't do well or one area where you need to grow, how do you answer that without shooting yourself in the foot?
Right.
Well, first, you definitely don't want to pick a weakness that is going to undermine your ability to do the job at all. Like
Right.
if you're interviewing for like a teacher role and you're like, I'm nervous speaking in front of small crowds, like that's
In front of
I
small
don't know,
people.
like that's not a good weakness. Yeah, I hate children. Like that's not a good
Children are the
weakness.
worst.
Like
I can't stand them.
So you want to pick a weakness that doesn't completely undermine your ability to do the job, but has had some negative impact and that you've worked hard on repairing. So for example, if we take that teacher and then that teacher is being asked, what's your biggest weakness? He or she can say something like, well, I used to have a little bit of a hard time following the standards, exactly. However, I asked a mentor to help me, to look at my curriculum and make sure that I was on the right track, that I was checking off all the boxes. And, this is an extra level of mentorship that I've required. And I think that I'm mostly on track now. However, I'm keeping in touch with that mentor in case an issue like this comes up again. Something like that shows this is a genuine weakness. I understand the weakness and I understand its impacts on whatever organization I'm serving. So it has that, self-awareness, and that you are doing whatever it takes to help remedy that so that there's no big impact on the work that you're doing.
Fatemah, I can see where this could be a place for maybe a humble brag be inserted in that spot,
Give an example, Kris.
I don't know,
humble brag.
Yeah, because you're going to have a chance to show off in other interview questions. The question, what is your biggest weakness or what is something you struggle with, is specifically designed to assess your self-awareness. And if you're like, I come across as intimidating because I'm such a go-getter. Like if that's what your answer is, then it's showing that, first of all, you have no self-awareness because everyone has weaknesses and everyone has struggled with something. Second, it possibly shows that you have no real experience, because how can you have, like, let's say 5 years of professional experience and not have stumbled at all? You know what I mean? Like, that's just not something that experienced people experience. And then it also shows that maybe you're not really a fun person to work with, because if you're just going to, kind of be bragging the entire interview and not take a minute to reflect and think about the potential things that you could be improving, it shows that you don't take criticism very well and you're probably not a good person to work with. Sorry.
Yeah, but what about, if you're there for the interview, aren't you supposed to be, in theory, selling yourself to the company? Like, you want to sell you to work there. They want to like you and all the things you bring to the table, right?
Right. So answering that question in the format that I shared, where you're showing self-awareness, all of that is actually showing a strength. That self-awareness is a strength that is critical to succeed in that job. The strengths aren't just, I'm so awesome, I'm so great, look at me, and I have big biceps on top of that. It's just, I can do the job, which means teamwork, self-awareness, being able to problem solve, being able to take constructive feedback. And that question allows you to work in all of those strengths.
And so that's just like a delicate balance, where I've heard some of my coworkers that have been going for promotions is like, they'll sit down for the interview and they want to share about what they've done, but they have a hard time actually taking credit for what they've done, and they want to attribute it to the team. And so I think it seems like there's this delicate balance between asserting what you've done and not being conceited and cocky. And so how does an individual find that balance in an interview setting?
I think it really depends on the role and the culture that you are, that you at the company that you're interviewing with. Because if you're in like a sales position and you're just saying we, like, it's not going to be, that interview isn't going to go as well as if you said, I exceeded my quota, I followed the roadmap, or I developed the roadmap, I penetrated these territories. If you kind of, feel nervous about using that kind of language, you can say something like, with the help of my team, I was able to secure this big deal, but I was the person who was kind of the face of this deal, or the face of the company. In some roles, having a bit of a we, like more we than I, is going to look better. For example, if you are, let's say, a team leader, like a very hands-on management type of person, where you're interviewing for more of the same, talking more about, how you nurtured your team to perform, and how you developed a culture where everyone felt like they could contribute, and how you helped people feel heard, and how you had a flexible and open door policy. Those kinds of things are going to work better. So it really all boils down to doing your research on the company and the role and kind of reading between the lines. If the language on that job listing is like, we want you to nurture a team of high performers, or talent is really important to us, then you know that talking a little bit more about your team and how you help them grow is more important, versus if the language is like, we're a team of, hard workers and hard partiers, or work hard, play hard, like if
Yeah.
that's
Oh
the
yeah,
kind
I can manage that team, no problem. But I was gonna say that so basically apply for the role that's being put in front of you. You should really know walking into the interview exactly what they want and kind of just steer your interview answers towards that role.
Absolutely. If you can also take a look at your interviewer's LinkedIn profile and see like how much we versus I are they using, that'll kind of help you speak their language a little bit more too. It can help you kind of mimic how they like to look at themselves and kind of, but I mean, I at the end of the day, like you kind of just want to be your authentic self in a way that still makes sense. Like if you have a really, like you just cannot for the life of you take credit, like you grew up in a culture where that's seen as boasting and it feels so icky and slimy to you, it's okay. Like practicing baby steps, talking about, yeah, my team and I were able to do this. That's okay. Like just get it out of your system. And, you'll find a company that celebrates that kind of work ethic and work culture. And if you're the kind of person that's like, no, I'm a lone wolf, I bring success to the team, I'm the star of the show, you will find a culture that celebrates that. So I think, the interview is a two-way street. You shouldn't have to really completely change your personality in order to succeed there. A little bit of flexibility in your answers goes a long way, but if you're totally fake in the interview, you might get a job that you don't even want.
Yeah,
you
true.
know?
Or what if you fake it till you make it and you get to a job that, like, you fake the interview, you fake the whole thing, you're totally underqualified for the job? Does that happen too?
Yeah, for sure. If like you're interviewing for a management role and you've never managed anybody, but let's say you've mentored a few people, when someone new comes in, you're the person that they go to for questions. It's totally okay to play that up in an interview and have, at least 2 to 3 answers focusing on that. So that, because I mean, we're not like static people, like we change and evolve. You might find an opportunity where, someone wants you to come in and be a manager. You don't have that much experience. You give the answers accordingly. You get the job. Well, now is a time for you to develop your management skills. So it's, I mean, it's not about completely being transparent and going to the interview and being like, hey, listen, I've never actually hands-on managed anybody. It's more about like, yeah, I have been sought out as a mentor. Even though I don't have any direct reports, I do help my teammates make sure that their performance is on point.
So we've talked quite a bit about the job search process, going out, building up your resume, getting ready for interviews. What about those that want to stay in the organization they're in, but want more recognition? How do you ask for a promotion or for more money without being thought of as greedy or not a team player?
Sure. So that's a really good question. How you come across as a team player and not appear too greedy. It's important that your accomplishments be very visible, right? Like you don't want to be doing a whole bunch of work that nobody knows about. You don't want people to be taking credit for your work. So whenever ideally you should be having regular quarterly performance evaluations where you are presenting everything you achieved to your manager. And if that's not happening, you need to manage that yourself. Like you need to have monthly calls with your manager where you're sending an email to your manager. If you want to set something like this up, this is how I would approach it. I would send my manager an email and I would say, hey, can I have 20 minutes of your time to discuss my performance and to discuss some of the projects that I've been working on to see if I'm on the right track and if there's anything else that I could be improving. So in those meetings, you would say, so this is what I have achieved in this past period, in this past month, past quarter, past year, whatever. Is there anything specific that you'd like me to work on in the next period? Can we put together like a SMART goal so that we're both on the same page about what it is that I exactly need to achieve? What are your biggest headaches right now that you wish someone would come in and solve? You're having these brainstorming sessions to see that, to see if there's any potential for further growth, but at the same time, you're reiterating the value that you've already brought. So that's step 1. And then step 2 is once you're, completely sure that, first of all, your manager takes you as a serious worker and they like you and they feel that you are a good contributor to the team. The second step is to ask for a promotion or a raise. And, it doesn't have to be aggressive. It doesn't have to be like, listen, I'm being compensated unfairly and I would like at least a 20% raise. It can be something like, hey, I've achieved a lot in the past quarter. This entailed really stretching my capabilities. And, my research shows that the market rate of this role is a little bit higher than what I'm currently being compensated. Is compensation something that we can potentially have a conversation about? Something very soft like that. Doing at least, like, if you're the kind of person that gets so nervous about talking about money and asking for a raise, doing that should not feel too confrontational, because you're just asking for permission to have a conversation, and then you're going to see what else is on the table that you can have. So if they say like, no, we don't have the budget for any raises this year, well, if a raise is really important to you, perhaps it's time for you to look for a job externally. Or if you love the company and you're like, it's okay, don't just walk away feeling dejected. Say, okay, what else can I have? Like, can I have a bonus? Can I have more time off? Can I have, work from home? Can I have, some flexibility in my schedule? Whatever it is that you want. Some companies will even pay for your gym membership, or what are the perks that you are not currently utilizing? See if you can negotiate for that, and don't leave anything on the table. And if you're just at a company where the culture is just really bad and they're just not rewarding top performers monetarily, which is so important, please start applying and at least get the confidence, because you might currently be making some, let's say $80,000 per year. If you start interviewing for positions that pay, let's say $100,000 a year, this gives you the confidence that there is something out there that could fit my skill set, and that, people are willing to pay for someone like me. Even if that interview doesn't work out, or maybe you don't like the company and you decide not to move, at least that confidence will help you see what else could be out there that would make you financially happy.
Absolutely. This information has been incredibly helpful. And so can you tell us a little bit more about the resources that you have available for our listeners, as well as the services that you provide through your company that they might be seeking out?
Absolutely. So I help people with their resumes, with their LinkedIns and cover letters. I help prepare them for interviews to negotiate for higher pay. And I also apply to jobs for people and coach them on how they can make sure they are doing the projects that executives have an eye on that would allow them to position themselves for a promotion. Like if you're at a job and you're like, I love this job, however, I want a promotion, or I want projects that that I can add to my resume that look really good, and you're just not able to have those kinds of conversations, or you're just struggling with tasks and you don't have like the creative freedom to really achieve a lot, that's something that I can coach you on as well. So if you'd like to get in touch with me, you can go to careertuners.com, and I have a bunch of free resources at careertuners.com/podcasts. Like at the end of 2022, I revamped all of our free resources, which entailed surveying more than 3,000 recruiters on what they like and dislike about candidates. And it also entailed interviewing a bunch of managers about who they're promoting and why. So I boil that down into a couple of cheat sheets that that would be really helpful to anybody who's looking for a job. I put together a resume that helps somebody double the salary that they were initially being offered. That's in like an annotated cheat sheet called my salary doubling resume cheat sheet, which you can grab at careertuners.com/podcast. You can grab my cover letter template for free, my templates on asking for a raise, and countering when someone gives you a really lowball offer without risking the offer itself, and a bunch of other great stuff that you can grab at careertuners.com/podcasts.
Fantastic.
That sounds really amazing. And everything that you've listed feeds into these things in my head that I've always wondered about how to do, but never quite knew how to accomplish. Like if you go out and you get a job offer and you know that it's a low ball, how do you come back and politely request for more without them saying, we don't want you to work for us? So it sounds like you have some really great resources. And so we really appreciate you being on the show, Fatemah. Any last words of wisdom for our listeners?
Yeah, surround yourself by people that are doing the kind of work and are being compensated just like you want. If you are, if you know that you're worth more and that you'd like to do more, find mentors and friends in that space so that that becomes normalized for you, you know, hearing all of those successes constantly. This is what my most successful clients do. And it's just one quick way you can really get the ball rolling with your career growth.
Well, thank you so much for these words of wisdom. We really look forward to hearing all of the great successes of your business. Best of luck to you.
Thank you so much.
Are you in the middle of wedding planning and feeling overwhelmed? There's no need to fret, my friend. Kristine Smith Designs is here to rescue you. Offering wedding planning, coordination, and wedding floral design services, let us help relieve your stress and make your wedding day dreams a reality. Visit us at KristineSmithDesigns.com. That's KRISTINE SmithDesigns.com and request a free consultation. You'll be so glad you did. Well, that was super insightful. I loved hearing Fatemah's expertise around resume building and interviewing and prepping yourself for the next step. Did you take some stuff from that you think you can apply to your life?
Yeah, like I gotta actually start a resume because the last time I actually did a resume was probably, years before I had this job.
Ugh.
I had this resume I made, and it basically just add to it at the bottom, like different jobs I had. So it's basically the same resume. I just would add the new job I worked at last on the bottom of it. And I try to keep it all one page if I could.
No, always put your most recent job on top, Kris.
What?
Most recent experience on the top.
Oh, maybe it was on top. I forget. This is how long ago. It's probably been 20 years.
Was it written with a typewriter?
No, it was actually with the ink and the little dabble. You dabble the ink and the little feather. You write it down, the Constitution.
The bloom.
That's right.
Did you like have your blotting cloth to like blot the extra ink?
I actually had like my ring that has like the little like
signet.
Yes, with the wax
Kiss
seal.
the ring. Yeah.
That's how I did it pretty much.
That's so funny.
You know, I think now I heard with resumes is like, you know what I mean? Do you really need them? Maybe depending on the job you want to do, you know?
Yes, you need a resume. Either that or a CV. The curriculum vitae is what it's called. And that's for like certain types of jobs where they prefer that over a resume, where it's like medical field or I don't know. We use resumes in education. I keep mine up to date. I was actually just looking at it over the weekend, like, oh, I want to add a couple of new things and change a little bit in my bio section. But I always keep mine up to date. And actually, I mean, I do love my job and I'm very happy there. But I did see this job come up that was super intriguing just this past week on LinkedIn. So I was like, I was looking at it and there was like 270 applicants within the day because it had just opened. And I was like,
is that a lot?
Oh yeah, that's a lot. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to get this job. But I was like, hey, I'll throw my hat in the ring. Why not? And so I was like sprucing up my resume. I'm like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And so I put it in there. I do that every once in a while. I'll put in like, 3 or 4 resumes just to test the waters. And then I hate getting the rejection letters. And I think the hardest thing for me is some of these are really intriguing positions that are outside of education. And so I always wonder, like, when people see an educator and they see, like, I've been a principal and a teacher and I'm applying for something in a corporate space, like, do they even take it seriously?
Well, I was kind of wonder if they would take me seriously if I was going to put a resume out there with something different than the truck driving career I've had.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking that's if my resume is just full of like truck driving and driving related jobs, then I want to say I want to do something totally different. They're going to say you have no experience in this role. You have experience doing this. How can we trust you? That's where I'm thinking that I need to figure out a better angle than just the resume by itself.
Right. I think that so many people are faced with that same type of quandary where it's like, I'm ready to change my profession and they don't want to have to start from the bottom because they already have years of experience in their career. I don't know what the answer to that is or how to like get people to look at your resume and then not to think like, oh my gosh, it's going to take so much time for them to get caught up. You know what I mean?
That's why when you create your resume, you got to use really creative, clever words like, I am a marketing strategist, personnel department educator.
No, that's when somebody's BS meter goes like ding, 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 ding. Like that is a fake experience.
I am a social media content expertise advisor.
You're just just coming up with stuff.
Or
I would like to see you build a fake resume. I want to see what titles you come up with. That's what you should do is you should create a fake resume. Well, create a resume where you inflate your experiences and see what it looks like.
I was the CEO of Doritos.
No, like
I was I worked the marketing department of Coca-Cola.
No. I mean like taking your experiences but changing the title so that it sounds fancier. So like right now you just say to people, "Oh, I'm a truck driver." And you were like, and I say, "Oh, that you're in the what do I say? Fuel transport."
I said already.
Yeah. Well, okay. So then what else would it be? Raw energy. I don't know. I'm trying to come up with it. Come on. Come up with a good title for your position.
I'm in the fuel expert. I'm in the fuel transportation, energy, logistics, and R&D department.
R&D, you're not in research and development, but I was thinking logistics. Yeah. Logistics and supply chain. Oh, that's what we could say. You're in fuel transportation, logistics, and supply chain management. Ooh, that sounds really good.
Although I don't really manage, I manage myself.
You manage the supply chain by managing the vehicle that you're driving that's supplying.
But if I want to get out of that department or that industry, and I want to get into more podcasting industry, which is always super fun. How would I say that?
Well,
I would just say I'm a podcaster and a radio star.
No, you don't just say you're a podcaster and a radio star. Like people don't listen to that kind of stuff. You're a podcast producer. You're an audio engineer for our podcast. You are you're in podcast marketing, and you are in social media content creation. Yeah, we could totally put all four of those on there.
Yeah, you got to sprinkle in big words in the middle there, you know.
No big words. People read through that. They're like, what is this guy actually saying? They'll like throw it off to the side and be like, this is fake.
Well, you know, hope not. You know, I mean,
they do.
I got to put some Bitmojis on there, really. You know? I'm like let's think, yeah, thumbs up in the air. You know, like yes, this is me.
Yeah, it's okay. So it's interesting. I was reached out to by somebody. She'd followed up with me because she'd reached out a year ago, asking for some support with like job application for an administrative position. And so she reached out to me and sent me her resume, sent me her cover letter and stuff like that. Cause I told her before, like, yeah, I can chat with you, but send me your stuff. And what I always do is I take a look and I'm like, okay, if I was the person that was receiving this resume and screening them for this job, would I screen them in or out? And I'm just very honest. And I just say like, oh, okay. Well, based off of the paperwork, I'd screen them out, and what are the reasons why? So I give that feedback to the person to be able to correct. So I'm actually doing some coaching, resume coaching, nowhere near what Fatemah does, and I think that she's way like light years ahead of me. But I think that it's really important that people definitely do keep an eye on like their resumes and keep them fresh and keep updating them with new experiences. And then also, you know, try to give yourself other experiences so that if you're thinking that you might want to break out into a different industry, that you don't feel so like pigeonholed, right?
Right. Because if you've been doing the same thing like I have, and like a lot of people have, when they get to my age in the game, where you're a dinosaur and you've done the same job.
You're not a dinosaur. You're just like a
your entire life. You know, it's hard to really branch out of that because you've been doing the same thing forever and ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, I'm proud of you for trying to learn new things and, you know, do things differently. And you're building up a really great empire for us over here. I love that you call us the K2 Media Network now.
That is true. We are officially the K2 Media Network.
That's awesome. So where can people find out more about our media network and all of its different components?
Well, I do have a newsletter I put out every single episode, and you can subscribe to that. I'll put a link to that into the show notes of this episode. But our master website, which is krisandkristinenshow.com, and you can find out everything you want to know right on over there.
Yeah, there you can find out about all of the different divisions of the K2 Media Network, including Podtastic Audio, the Kris and Kristine Show, Also, Kris's podcast production services. And then I think there's a little tab even over there for Kristine Smith Designs, which is our event management company. And also the K2 radio station, right?
That's right. K2 Radio is going on 24/7 live, 365. It is our music, our podcast, our fun, all wrapped up in a radio station.
Absolutely. And we just want to say thank you so much for helping us to continue to build our media network. Definitely make sure to subscribe to this podcast wherever you found us. Leave us a review. Also, if you would like to, you can send us over a little email. If you subscribe to our newsletter, you can actually reply to that newsletter, and we'll definitely get that reply from you. Right, Kris?
Fantastic.
Yep. And so thanks so much for listening to us, everybody. And we'll be back with you next week.